everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie and today's video is going to be a holiday reading vlog. So before I get into the video, please remember to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. I primarily read fantasy, thriller and romance books and I post videos every Sunday. So this week I am going away for the week. We're going away for a couple of days just to have a nice chilled, relaxed time. We've got like an Airbnb place booked. We're going to do some like walk-ins, some day trips out, but primarily we're going to relax. So I'm going to be taking a couple of books with me. I'm hoping to get a couple of them read. I've got a couple of paperbacks and then I'm just going to take my Kindle with me. So I'm taking with me The Wrong Sister by Claire Douglas. I'm borrowing this one off my mum, so I need to get this one read. I've got Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong, which is a fantasy book that I've got from the library. It's the sequel series to These Violent Delights. I read that a couple of years ago on holiday as well, so I'm excited to get to the sequel series. And I'm also taking a book, I think it's called like The Summer We Fell by Elizabeth O'Rourke. I bought this last year in the works. It was on like the 3 for £6 deal and I haven't started the series yet, and I thought summer is a great time to read a summary book. So those are the 3 paperbacks I'm taking. I'm not sure if I'll actually get to them, but we'll see. And then on my Kindle I've got like quite a few books on there, and I have started reading my first book for this vlog, which is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I think that's what the book's called. It's her first book. So I accidentally read the like sequel to this book first, which is One Golden Summer, in a previous vlog. I didn't realise that was the sequel because on Goodreads it's not actually listed as a series, so I do kind of know how this book ends, but I did really enjoy One Golden Summer, so I'm excited to read this one. So in this one we follow Percy and Sam. Sam is Charlie's brother from One Golden Summer and they're kind of like childhood sweethearts. So the start of the book opens with they are separate, they haven't spoken to each other for years. Percy hasn't gone back to the lake or anything like that where they met when they were kids, and she's just broken up with her boyfriend who she wasn't really that fond of anyway, but basically she can't get over Sam even all these years later. And then Charlie rings her, finally makes contact, and it turns out that Sam and Charlie's mum has passed away and she goes back to the lake to attend her funeral. She meets Sam again and we kind of go from there. This is kind of like, I guess, childhood sweetheart, you know. I don't know what, well, I do kind of know what happened between them because I have read One Golden Summer, but I'm really enjoying this one so far. I'm really loving the sort of like the childhood sweetheart aspect we have. We have chapters from the past and the present, so we're seeing them reconnecting and we're seeing their relationship when they were younger, like their friendship, which will then obviously probably blossom into a little bit of a romance. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this one so far. I'll probably chat more to it about you guys when we're at the place and once I've read a little bit more of it. I think I'm about 30% of the way through, but I'm really enjoying it. Carly Fortune is fast becoming one of my new favourite romance authors. Like I said, I read One Golden Summer, gave it 4.5 stars, absolutely loved it, and I know that she is really well loved as well. I've got all of her books on Kindle, so I'm hoping to read this one, and then I'll probably read a thriller book, but we'll see how I'm feeling, we'll see how much we get read. But yeah, let's go away for a few days. So as you can see, slightly different background, we have now arrived at the apartment that we are staying in. So we arrived, I unpacked, blah blah blah, boring stuff, and then I managed to sit down for a little bit and I finished reading Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. So I'm going to give this one a 4-star rating. I really enjoyed this one, but I definitely didn't enjoy it as much as One Golden Summer, which I gave a 4.5 stars, which is like the sequel to this book. So for me, I can see how far Carly Fortune has come with her writing and her storytelling. I think that Charlie and Alice's story was a much stronger told story than Percy and Sam's. As I said in the previous update, we follow Percy and Sam, who are basically childhood sweethearts, and there's so much sort of standing in their way. It's difficult, isn't it? When you're that young, you don't realise how big your feelings can be, and they think they're just friends and, you know, all that. But it was really sweet seeing the flashbacks because a lot of the relationship was built up prior to them being 18 years old. So we start from when they're 13, go into their 18, and then there's like 12 years where they don't see each other. They reunite when they're 30 years old at Sam's mother's funeral, and then all sorts kind of comes to light about a past with Charlie and Percy and Sam and how everything is just kind of messy, and it really was like right person, wrong time for them. And I think maybe if they had met 5 years later, and it would have been so much better for them, but obviously life doesn't work that way. I did really enjoy their story. I just personally preferred One Golden Summer. I do think this was a really strong debut. This is her first book and it's a really strong debut. I'm definitely going to be reading the rest of her books. They are, from what I've read so far, absolutely fantastic. It was a really fast-paced read, really engaging, like you're really rooting for the characters. Like not only do you see sort of Sam and Percy growing up, we see Charlie, we see Sue, we see all the family, and it was just really good to see, and like just a really well-rounded story. So yeah, her writing style was really good. I really enjoyed it, and just yeah, this was a really fun summery read. Definitely perfect perfect for summer, like being set on a lake. Both of them, you know, Every Summer After and One Golden Summer, just perfect for a summery getaway. So yeah, 4 stars for this one. And then I'm now going to move on to Then She Vanishes by Claire Douglas. I don't really know what our plans are going to be this evening. I think we're going to go and get some fish and chips a bit later on, and then I don't know, maybe watch a film. We'll see how much reading I get done, but this is just like a chill holiday, so I'm not going to put pressure on myself to read because there's going to be plenty of time to do that, like tomorrow, day after, etc. So yeah, I will check back in with you guys when I've got a bit more of an update for you. So I did start reading The Wrong Sister last night. I think I kept calling this one Then She Vanishes, but it is The Wrong Sister. So I'm about just over 100 pages in. I've just gotten to part 2. So in this one we follow kind of 4 characters, but primarily a couple. So we follow Tasha and her husband, I think his name was Aaron, and then she has a twin sister called Alice, and she's married to a guy called Kyle. They've been married for about 4 years. Alice and Kyle are very rich and they live a very different life to Tasha and her husband and her 2 kids. So Alice proposes that they swap lives for a week. They go and stay in her apartment in Venice, and she will stay and look after the kids with her husband Kyle. Tasha and her husband Aaron go away. There's implications that Aaron's maybe cheating and their marriage isn't very happy anymore with the kids around. They're struggling to find time for each other. They're in Venice. A few things happen. So they get followed by someone with a knife, which is a bit weird. One evening they get a phone call from Aaron's mum, who lives down the road. Her name's Viv, and there's been a suspected break-in, and Alice is in intensive care and Kyle has actually been murdered. And then a separate sort of plot point to this is that Alice and Tasha, they had a younger sister, and when the younger sister was 4 months old, she was kidnapped from the village and she's never been found, and it's 30 years to the day that their sister Holly went missing. So they come back to the UK. Obviously Kyle's dead, the kids are traumatized, like they don't know what happened. But they do know that the back door was left unlocked, so they don't know if it was an attempted robbery or what happened. Tasha and Aaron are allowed back into the house. They go back into the house to kind of see if anything was taken, and a note has been left for Tasha that says it was supposed to be you. And that's all we've got to. We've had a perspective from Tasha's mum talking about Holly's disappearance, and then there's a bit of animosity between her and her, what do you call like both the mother-in-laws, like there's a bit of animosity between her and Viv. Jeanette is Tasha's mum and Viv is Aaron's mum. There's a bit of animosity between them, and Viv was actually there the day that Holly went missing. She was one who comforted Jeanette and things like that, so I don't know what's going on there. So there was the note that it's supposed to be you, so that's where I've gone up to. So it's like any Claire Douglas book, it's straight into the action, straight into the plot. It's very fast paced, it's really good to read. I'm really enjoying it so far. With my thrillers, I don't really tend to, I read the plot when I add them to my want to read list, but I don't really tend to read the plot before or like reread the synopsis before I go back in. But all of that is actually on the back, so I'm kind of glad that I didn't reread it. But yeah, I won't say too much more about the rest of the plot of this book. Obviously I haven't read it yet, but when I get to it I won't really say too much. But I'm interested to see what has Tasha or Aaron got themselves mixed up into. So there's some implications that it could potentially be, there's like a gang of criminals in this village that go on the rob and things like that. There's implications that Aaron's done a bit of work covering for them in his mechanic shop. We don't really know the details of that. So is this note for Tasha or is it for Aaron? It's got Tasha's name on it, but I'm really intrigued where this is going to go. I'm intrigued how these 2 plot points with the current burglary and the murder of Kyle and the missing sister are going to link together, because Claire Douglas is really good at tying everything together. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this one so far. I'm going to carry on reading for the rest of the day. We don't really actually have any plans, so I'm going to carry on reading this and I'll check back in with you guys maybe when I'm done now. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this one so far. Hey guys, so it's a bit later on in the day now, and I did finish reading The Wrong Sister by Claire Douglas earlier. Okay, so this one is a 4.5 stars. This was absolutely amazing. The only reason it's not a 5-star is I didn't enjoy the middle of this book as much as other Claire Douglas books. Doesn't mean that it wasn't a very good book. It was still amazing. I've explained the plot of this one, and we just are constantly moving forward with the plot. It's really fast paced, a really quick read. I read this in a couple of hours. As I said, I did actually finish this one earlier in the day, but I've just kind of been lazing around today. This had quite a few twists that I didn't actually see coming, so I've explained the 2 different sort of plot points that we had and how they tied together. I guessed one of the characters' involvement slightly. I only sort of assumed that maybe they knew about something to do with the missing girl, but I didn't guess how involved they actually could be. I don't really want to give any spoilers, but I kind of guessed as well one of the characters wasn't who they said they were, sort of thing. But this was really good, and honestly the final twist at the end, because I was sort of reading it thinking, are we ever going to find out what happened, you know, who did something in one of the plot points? And I was shocked. I was actually shocked. I finished this book and I literally just kind of put it down And I just kind of like sat there just staring into space, just thinking, oh my god, why did I not see that coming? And there were so many hints to it throughout, but it was so good. At one point, the two sisters, Alice and Tasha, are in the car together, and Tasha says that she likes listening to true crime podcasts, and she mentions the podcast, or mentions the case that was actually in one of Claire Douglas's other books. I think it was the Girls Who Disappeared. We follow a podcaster who's making a podcast about that case, and she references that in here, saying that she's in the middle of listening to it or something. So that's really cool, like a reference to another Claire Douglas book that you'd only pick up on if you'd read her other book. So I'm kind of thinking, like, how many other references have I missed in her other book? But yeah, this is really good. I'd highly recommend Claire Douglas as an author. Like I said, this is a 4.5. My favourite one is The Couple at Number 9, and then I think it's Then She Vanished, which I keep thinking this book is called. To be honest with you, all the covers of Claire Douglas books look exactly the same, and that's why I get them confused. But yeah, this was absolutely amazing, perfect for this sort of type of vlog. I read it in a couple of sittings. I couldn't put it down. It's so good. So the other two physical books that I bought with me was A Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong and The Summer We Fell by Elizabeth O'Rourke. So what I think I might do is I think I'm going to start this one now and then just kind of see how far we get through, see how I'm feeling it. I'm really struggling a little bit with fantasy at the moment. I'm just not enjoying it as much, or not wanting to pick it up as much as like thrillers and romances. So this is a YA, so this should be a bit easier to read, and it's set in a world that I'm already familiar with, because this is the sequel series to These Violent Delights. So I'm already familiar with the world and some of the characters. I think it follows characters that were in the first series but weren't the main characters. So I'm already aware of the world and the characters, so I hope this one is a little bit easier for me to get through. If not, I could always switch between that and The Summer We Fell by Elizabeth O'Rourke. This one's only really short anyway, literally just under 300 pages. Okay, it's 302 pages with the epilogue. And then if I'm fancying a thriller, I've got so much downloaded on my Kindle, I could always do that instead, but I've got so much romance that I need to read. Yeah, I think I'm gonna read this one. I've had this out from the library for a long time as well, so it probably needs to go back soon anyway. But yeah, let's start this one and I'll check back in with you guys when I've got a reading update for you. Hey guys, so it's now Wednesday and I am just under halfway through Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. So in this one we follow Rosalind, and she was in These Violent Delights. She was Juliet's cousin, and she has a sister called Celia, and this is basically about Rosalind. So she was kind of experimented on, so she fell really ill after the events of These Violent Delights, and they took her to a White Flower doctor, which is the rival gang, and he injected her with something, and she is now basically immortal. She can't die. The only thing that can kill her is probably poison, but any wounds that she has, she just like recovers from instantly. So one set of our characters works for the communists and one of them works for the Nationalist Party. I think Rosalind and Orion work for the Nationalist Party, and Orion is a fellow spy, and they are tasked with basically finding out what the communists are up to. They are also tasked with finding out what the Japanese are up to, so there's quite a lot of political manoeuvring in this one. And then we also follow a couple of other characters. So Elisa, who was Roma's sister, we follow her. She's working for the Communist Party, only because they're the only party that will take her after the downfall of the White Flowers. And we also have Orion's brother Oliver and Celia, Rosalind's sister. They are also working for the Communist Party. So Orion and Oliver's background is basically their dad was quite prestigious in society, and he was accused of being a traitor, and it turns out he wasn't a traitor. He was completely cleared of all allegations. But Oliver then left to work for the Communist Party, and Orion works for the Nationalist Party, and their younger sister Phoebe is kind of torn in the middle. She mainly sides with Orion, and she's kind of passing notes back and forth. She's not really involved with the Nationalist Party, but she does some kind of work for them. And then Oliver and Celia, they are working for the Communists, and basically they're all trying to find out what the others are up to. We also have the Japanese. I think they're trying to take over China at this point, so everyone's trying to find out what they're up to, and basically everyone is spying on each other. That's kind of the crux of this story, really. And then there are a series of murders where it's basically chemical attacks. So these people, there's only been a couple so far, and they're not really described in too much detail, but basically they're being like injected and they almost turn sort of zombie-like, I think. Yeah, so she's trying to find out what's going on there, and that's kind of a backstory so far. We're mainly trying to find out what the other parties are up to, and Orion and Rosalind are basically pretending to be married so they can infiltrate this workplace where they think that a lot of the communist communication comes from, is what I understand of this so far. So I definitely think I preferred These Violent Delights to this one so far, mainly because I really enjoyed the whole gang drama and like the gang fights. This one is mainly just a kind of a lot of going to work, coming home, not really achieving a lot. There's a lot of things going on in the background, I think, of this one rather than the previous series where it was just action, action, action. I do think it's kind of a similar plot as well with the chemical murders with what was happening in these Violent Delights. I won't say too much about what happened in there, but yeah, it's really good so far. It is quite long though. Considering that we're 240 pages in, not a lot has really happened so far. It's been a lot of setup for where all of our characters are. I think a lot of background setup has been done for all these characters, and you've got like the Communist Party, the Nationalist Party, the Japanese, you've got Rosalind having a whole assassin storyline that's kind of been put on pause so she can work with Orion, and it is interesting to see what all the characters are up to and interesting to see both sides of the arguments. We haven't really learned too much about this, or the Japanese side of this story yet, but I am interested to see what is going to happen and where this is going to go. I do really enjoy Chloe Gong's writing style as well. Like, I think this is classed as YA. I would say this is really more on the upper end of YA. I would say more like new adult, but I am really enjoying it, and it is a quick read. I sort of can read like over 100 pages in an hour because it is, you know, it's not too taxing. It's a world that I'm familiar with, but yeah, I'm just not loving it as much as the previous series, but I am still enjoying it. So I'm gonna crack on with this one. I might read a little bit more and then maybe switch over to the romance book I've got. We'll see how I feel, but yeah, I am really enjoying this one so far. Hey guys, so I'm just checking back in. As you can see, I am now home. I have a few reading updates that I didn't tell you yesterday. So first of all, I managed to finish reading Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong, and I think I'm going to give this one a 3.5 stars. So I did find the plot of this one really interesting. I just feel like it was very long for what actually happened. There are a few twists that one of them I kind of saw coming, one of them I really didn't, so that was fun. It was a fun read, but yeah, it was just nothing really special, and I think it's kind of Chloe Gong trying to rehash the original duology just again with different characters, I think, and then taking out the gang violence, so it just wasn't as good in my opinion. But I will be continuing on with this series. It's only 2 books anyway. I am interested to see what happens and what happens to all our characters. But yeah, this just wasn't her best work, I don't think. I do really enjoy, as I said before, these Violent Delights and her adult series Immortal Longings, I think it's called, the Anthony and Cleopatra retelling. But yeah, this was just really, really long. I think a lot of this could have been cut out and it would have been far more enjoyable in my opinion. But yeah, at least I've read it now. And then I also started and finished reading The Summer We Fell by Elizabeth O'Rourke. I'm going to give this one a 3.5 or a 4 star. I'm going back and forth between the 2 ratings. So this one we follow our main character Juliet, and a bit like every summer after, there's 2 timelines to this one. So there's the past and the present. Past in 2013 is when our main characters Danny, Juliet and Luke are approximately sort of between 16 and 18 and then 20, so it's over a couple of years. And then the present timeline is obviously today. So Juliet is a troubled teen. She comes from a very abusive home and she's going out with a guy called Danny, and Danny's mum Donna is like the priest's wife and his dad is the pastor, and he's got no name apart from the pastor, and they are a very religious household. And Juliet leaves her abusive home and starts to live with the Allen family, and she is very much kind of taken advantage of, but they do it in a way that they seem like they're doing what's best for her and she should be appreciating what she's got. So for example, she will walk in the door after a double shift at the local diner and Donna is like, oh, you need to help me with tea, you need to help me with this, blah blah blah, whilst, you know, Danny gets to sit down and not do anything. Now Danny is very much against like sex before marriage, and Juliet is wanting to progress their relationship a bit, and she's very frustrated. She feels like she's being guided down a path that she doesn't really want, and this is over the whole sort of timeline of this book. And in the present day, Juliet is a famous singer, I believe, and she goes back home because Donna is very ill, and we find out very quickly that Danny died when they were teenagers. We don't find out how until near the end of this book, and our main love interest in this book, Luke, he is Danny's best friend and he stays with the Allen family as well during these summers. So it's all about how in the present day Juliet and Luke come back to the town to help Donna build Danny's home, which is basically a house where foster children can come and live, a bit like what Donna did with Juliet and Luke, but on a bigger scale. So they come and help build it, fund it, make it well known, sort of thing, and they fall in love. And in the past timeline, we've also got Juliet's relationship with Danny. We have her living in this house with Donna and the pastor and Danny, and how her life is very much like, Danny's going to be the new pastor, you're going to be the pastor's wife, you're going to just, you know, stay at home, be a mum, be a wife, and that's not what she wants for herself. Whilst this is going on, obviously she wants to progress her relationship with Danny. Danny doesn't want to, and her and Luke definitely have far more chemistry. You know, she feels things for Luke that she's never felt for Danny. Even she says in this book, she felt like Danny was more of a brother to her, he was safe, whereas Luke is where all the fireworks are. This was fun, it was a quick read, it was quite deep, which I wasn't expecting. I think some of the religious aspects did make this quite deep, and I do think that the commentary on, there's different types of abuse, right? You know, there's the emotional and physical and sexual abuse that Juliet faced in her home, and some of the commentary on both of those aspects was about how it was her fault. There's an incident where she is pushed off her bike, someone tries to like grab her top and assault her, and the first thing like Danny and Donna say to her is like, well, it was kind of your fault. And it's like, no, it wasn't. So that kind of bugged me a bit, but it was just kind of it was what was going on in the story. I do think I am going to continue this series. They are a bunch of like standalones. I don't know if the group of friends is all connected, I'm not really sure, but I did feel like we were missing a bit of this story, so we get kind of thrown in. The way that it's told felt very sort of two-dimensional, and I found it difficult to connect to the two characters. It was a cute story and I did enjoy reading it. Like I said, I will continue on with this series. They are so short. This was literally 302 pages, I think, and I read it within a couple of hours, so it's really not going to take me long to get through this series. It was fun. I didn't love this. I think a 3.5 is more of what I think. I'm really not sure on my rating for this one. We'll say a 3.5. I might change that, but I did enjoy reading this one. So again, that's another book off my TBR. And then I have started reading Do Not Disturb on my Kindle by Frida McFadden. So I did start this one last night whilst I was still on holiday. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this book, and then that will be the end of this vlog. And we're following a woman who has just murdered her husband, and she's now on the run. No one's discovered the body yet, but she wants to be far away by the time they discover his body. He is very abusive, and he is also very prestigious in this community. He has a lot of power, a lot of connections, and she knows that her life will just be ruined. There'll be no claim of self-defense or anything like that, which is what it's sounding like it is. However, we don't know if she's a reliable narrator or not. Anyway, she goes on the run and she ends up at this motel. She doesn't get very far. She's only about 20 minutes away from her house, and she ends up at this motel and is kind of going to stay there for the night and then carry on the run, I guess, in the morning. So I will read a bit more of this one. I'm only about 20% of the way through, and I will let you know a bit more about the plot of this one once I've read a bit more. Hey guys, so I'm just coming in to wrap this reading vlog up. I did finish reading Do Not Disturb by Frida McFadden. So in this one we follow our main character Quinn, and literally at the start of her book she has killed her husband and she goes on the run. We find out that her husband is abusive, doesn't treat her very nicely. She murders him in self-defense and then flees the scene because obviously she doesn't want to go down for murder. She stops off at a petrol station, she cuts her hair off, she gets cash out, she knows kind of what she needs to do to go on the run, and eventually she ends up at a motel called Baxter's Motel, which is really run down. There's one guest who lives there permanently, and then the other 2 rooms are available. The guy who runs the motel, he is married to a woman called Rosalie, and Rosalie ran the diner that is connected to the motel, and she has MS and she can't leave her room anymore. She's really ill. Creepy things go on. A woman was murdered at the motel 2 years prior to Quinn getting there. She gets trapped at the motel in a snowstorm, and then we kind of go from there. So this one I gave a 3-star rating. It was really quick to read, like any Frida McFadden, really quick to get through. I did think it was a bit predictable, but in the way that the story actually made sense. I don't know if it was predictable because I was good at reading the hints dropped through. I worked out who done it kind of thing. I worked out who was the baddie in this and what happened. There was a twist at the end that I didn't see coming, but again it made sense, and this was just a fun quick read. I read it in like a couple of hours on my Kindle, and it just really didn't take a lot of thought process for. It was really creepy as well. Like I started reading this when we were actually on holiday, and I had to stop before I went to bed because I was getting a bit creeped out, because it almost felt like there should have been some paranormal aspects to this, but I did enjoy it. 3 stars, another Frida McFadden off of the list. So that is going to be it for this reading vlog. I did have a lovely time off work, but unfortunately I am back to work tomorrow. So please remember to like this video if you've enjoyed it. If you've made it this far, I'd love to have you subscribe and stick around. Otherwise guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.